Hi, it's Amy here. I wanted to show you how quick and easily this ScoreBoards Plus die by Eileen Hull comes together. This is called the Slotted Treat Box. It's a new die, and this is a ScoreBoard Plus die, which means that it's, the plus means that it's bigger than 6 inches wide. So this one's actually is, I think 9 inches wide. And it's a steel rule die that will cut into thick material to create the scores for this. So it comes together really easily, and you can use really thick material so it can be really sturdy. So what I'm choosing to use is this chipboard that I bought off of Amazon. I'll leave the link for you. This is 12 by 12. I cut it down to be 9 by 12 so that it could fit through the machine. And if you look at the die itself, I put a piece of tape here so that I know exactly, and I put a piece of tape here so that I know where to place the board, so that I'm sure that this cut is made and that this cut is made all the way there. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and covered that board on one side with the pattern that I want to have on the outside of my suitcase, and then also on the other side with the pattern that I want to have on the inside of the suitcase. And when I run it through, I want to make sure, first of all, that I clear those two areas. So I have the tape to help me to know that I'm getting it in the right position. And I'm using a Spellbinders Platinum 8.5. Even though the machine says it's 8.5 and this is a 9-inch die, it still goes through. It's what I use. So let me cut out. I'm gonna run it through twice. So I have 2 of my covered boards ready to go. I'm gonna cut those out and meet you back here. Okay, so after you cut out those 2 boards, oh, and I should tell you, I was wrong. Don't cut the boards 9 by 12, but slightly less than 9, maybe 8 3/4. 9 does not fit through the Spellbinders 8.5, so, but I think 8 3/4 will. So I had to trim those down in order for it to go through. And here's what you'll be left with. 2 pieces cut for the front and back of the suitcase or the box, and then these 2 are used to make the box part for the bottom of the suitcase, or the thicker part of the suitcase. So there are 2 of those and 2 of those. Keep that little slot part that comes out. I just glue it back in. I'm not bothered by it. You could cover this piece with a piece of scrapbook paper this size. And then these 2 pieces cut out, and those go together to make the sides of the top of the box. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cutting board, my cutting mat, and a finger blade, and what I'm going to do is just go and wherever this score is, I'm just going to extend that score to the ends. Do you see how it ends here and it ends here? It doesn't go all the way. I want it to go all the way, and then I'm going to remove the top layers of this paper and then the top layers of the chipboard so that my corners are just a little bit less bulky and a little neater. So I'm going to do that on all of these, and then I'm going to cut it, and then let me show you exactly with this one what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut it like this, and then when I score it, I'm just going to peel off this top part and throw that away. It's a little bit hairy, but it will all be glued down. You won't see any of this part. And you can take off as much as you want. I just take off what comes off pretty easily. You can use a blade for this. I just use my fingernails. Okay, and then if there's a part that's just a little bit sticking up, I just take my scissors and just trim that off a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go around and do that with all of the parts that would be glued down. That's on this, on these, and on this. And at the same, also I'm going to go in and I'm just going to pop out this little slot, and I'm going to put glue all around it and then pop it back in. One other thing, I don't know if it's something going on with my die itself. I think it might be. It doesn't cut this corner, but it shows me where it was cut. And I think it used to cut it. I think I've just jammed up that corner. And Eileen has a tip for adding foam, sticky foam, to corners where this could happen. And I think it just got compressed. Anyway, no big deal. I can see where it's supposed to go. So what I do is I just take my finger blade and carefully cut that where it's sort of scored, but I just want to make it into a cut. And then I can even use my scissors to cut that away. Okay. And it's no big deal. I'm telling you in case it happens to you. Okay. Anyway, I'll keep going, cutting these and peeling off those tabs. Okay, so here we are. I have all those tabs prepared, ready for us to go. And, oh, not that one. I'll do that one real quick. Okay, let me just do that real quick. Okay, now we're all ready to go. What I'm going to do is first I'm going to glue the sort of this frame around, and then I'm going to glue the this part to it. I'll show you what I mean. And I have these sort of corner things. I got this from Craftelier, which is a Spanish company, and I thought it would be a great way to make sure that we're square. So I'm going to try them. I haven't used them before, but I think it will be sort of like this little jig that will hold everything in place while it glues, but also make sure that that is a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to do that with the shorter ones here and also for the longer ones. Oh, also I wanted to show you, if you didn't want to have this slot showing, here's what you could do. You could take a piece of, if you have extra of that same cardstock, and I did, you could cut a piece that's 2 5/8 by 6 3/8. Might be slightly bigger than, maybe it is about 6 1/2, somewhere between 6 3/8 and 6 1/2. And then you can glue that right over. You have wasted a little bit of this cardstock by gluing over it, but it would be too hard to figure out which part you're not going to cover. It would be too hard to do. So anyway, I'll go ahead and do that, and that will be the top of my suitcase. I don't care that there's one on the bottom. I really don't care that there's one at all showing either on the top or the bottom, because I think it sort of goes away when you put it back in. But I just thought I would show you in case that was something that that you wanted to make sure you didn't have in your finished product. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this. Oh, if my glue would work. Okay, there we go. I think that happens to everybody on camera. Okay, now I will glue the faces on these two parts for the suitcase. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do, this is optional, but I think it makes a real difference in making this project a little bit finished, so or a little bit more finished. So if you notice, there are these raw edges all around. They're hardly noticeable, but I thought if I covered them, actually suitcases are often covered in the same kind of way. So what I did is I cut strips. This is just the 12-inch paper, and what I did was scored it at 1/4, and then cut it at a half. So let me show you exactly how I did that on my. I did it on the combination ScoreBoard cutting board, or cutting whatever you call it, ScoreBoard cutting. What is this called? Cutter, trimmer. That's it. Okay. So what I did is. This is the Dress My Craft trimmer, and it has both the cutter blade and the scoring blade on it. And working with a long sheet of paper, what you do, so I started with the 12-inch, because the thing is, once you get down to, if you're working with small, thin strips, like if you cut these strips to a 1/2 inch, and then tried to score it in the middle, it's just going to be so fiddly and so hard. So what I did is I have my cutting blade up here, I have my scoring blade down there. I've lined the paper up on the 1/4 inch line, and that line goes all the way down. You see that? So I make sure that it's lined up on the top and the bottom, and I run the score up and down like that. Then I bring it back down and I line the paper up with the 1/2 inch mark, and this time I'm going to bring the blade down, but then I'm going to bring it back up so that I can easily move that out and then move my paper to do the next scoring. And that's the way to do it, like just one after another. Oh, I did that one wrong. One after another, scoring, and then cutting. Okay, so you'll need quite a few of those because you need, let me put this away and I'll show you. I might need to cut more, but you need 4 pieces that are 2 3/4, 4 that are 1 inch, and you do those sides first. Then you need 8 that are 6 1/2, and then 8 that are 5 inches, about. And I'll show you how I do that. So let me first start and do these side pieces, and you see how even that isn't it isn't glued down right. It just doesn't look nice to me. So this will sort of cover up that raw edge, and also it will make it just a little bit more finished. So do you see what I mean? Okay, so I'm going to cut these down and I'll get right back to you. All right, so now that I have those pieces cut, I'm going to just glue and place those first on those these box edges on the side. Okay, now that we have those sides glued on the top and the bottom, now we're going to work on, let me see how I can describe this, the outside edges. So that's here, 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 and here, but not yet here. Okay? How we're going to do that is, instead of pre-cutting these, the lengths that I needed, which are 6.5 and 5, what I'm going to do is place them where I need them and then make the cut. And that's just in case that the length is actually a little bit different than what I've marked. This is what I'll do next. And so okay, now we are going to do this inside edge. This is just a little bit trickier, but it's basically the same thing. What we're going to do is use that scored or folded line to make sure that we line that up right there, and then we'll glue the inside part. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so after I glued that down, then what I'm going to do is trim this edge like this, and then also this edge. But then we're going to take this point and just bevel it like that. See that point there? And we're just going to bevel it. Okay? Then we'll lift up that flap and apply glue there. That seems like a lot of glue. And then use our bone folder to glue along that top area. Okay, and then fold it in like this. Okay, now we have all of the edges covered, and I'm pretty happy with how that looks. The one thing I wanted to say is that I would recommend for this edging part to use a solid core cardstock. It's just that you see there's a lot of cracking that happens. Now what I did to make it so that you didn't see those white sort of cracked areas is that I used a marker that matched my paper that happens to be this it happened for me to be this Tri-Blend Spectrum Noir orange blend marker in the middle part. And I just touched the areas where I saw white, and that sort of made it go away. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I put hinges on this suitcase. So if you remember, we put a piece of patterned paper over that slot for the top of the box. So that means that this is the bottom of the box. Okay, and I'm going to place the lid where I would want it to go, there, sort of match, put them up against each other. And then I've gotten these hinges from Amazon. And what I'm going to do is place them where I would like them to go, and you can use a ruler to make sure they're even, but I'm just going to sort of eyeball it. And then what you want to do is use these long fasteners, or find some brads that have a longer arm to them. These Tim Holtz Ideology long fasteners work really great. You just need a little bit more of an arm to your brad than what you normally find for the mini brads, because it needs to go through all of this material and then have enough room to open up to be secure. Also, you could add glue as well as the brad, especially if that brad doesn't have the longer arm, and that will just glue the hinge down as well as have the brad hold it in place. That should help. Okay, so what I'm going to do is place these hinges where I want them to be. Okay, and then I'm going to use my well, first I can just use a pencil to sort of mark those areas where I'm going to poke holes. It's a little tricky, and I'll just do one hinge at a time, sort of adding a pencil mark where I want those to go, and I'll put this one aside for now. And then I'm going to need my pokey tool. Where is it? And I'm going to use my pokey tool to poke those holes in. Now, they don't need to stay together now, and if I put my hand close, but not too close to those holes, I can add some stability to the back of that as I poke through. And you don't really want to use your hole punch for this, because you want that hole to be just barely big enough for the brad arm to get through. I'll go ahead and do this side too. Okay. And be careful you don't poke yourself, because you're using a lot of pressure there. Okay, so and then match it back up, and then what I'm going to do is place that where it's supposed to go with the brad in. That. And I'll just do the top first. Okay. And I really want to press that brad into the material a little bit, so that it's really opening up kind of strong, that you're not making a lot of wiggle room. I have this tool, or you can use your bone folder, to really press that brad down so that it's open and there's not a lot of room for wiggle. And then do the same thing with the other one. Just sort of press with this finger into the brad and then open it as well as you can. If it's loose, it's fine. It just means that that hinge will be a little bit loose. Okay. And then if you were worried about, like I have that little bit of white showing from the paper sort of cracking, I'll show you that trick that I talked about. You could just go in and just, and it sort of disappears. Okay, if you were concerned about that. Okay, and then I'm not going to put this down yet onto the box. I think what I'll do is first put this next hinge on in the same way. Okay, Now that I have my hinges on, I can add a latch to close it. But I need 4 more brads, so I'll be right back out with those. Okay, now the best way to do this, I think, is to secure one of these down. It doesn't matter which. And then close it, and then you'll know where to put close it onto the other one that's not attached, and then that will tell you where the other one should go. Let me show you what I mean. And I don't know, I mean, I've played around with putting the latch part on the lid or the latch part on the box itself. I think the latch part goes on the lid. Anyway, that's what I'll do this time, but you could do it either way, I think, anyway. So let me just make sure this is giving enough room. Okay, I think that will be good. So I think I'll use this line as a guide of where to put that, and maybe I will make sure we're centered this time. This shows a little bit more than the hinges. So I'm using the centering ruler. You put the 0 in what you think is the center, and then you make sure that you've got the same on both sides. So the 0 is right here in the center, and I have 3 1/4 on both sides. So that's going to tell me that this is about the center. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing, place it where I want it to be, and then use my pencil to mark where I want to poke the holes, and use my pokey tool to make those holes. Okay, so that was this one. Now that I have that placed, what I can do is open it up, place the other about where I think it's going to go, but then hook this into it, and sort of line it up where you think it should go, right there. Okay. Okay, so now we have the latch on, we have the hinges on, and the last thing we need is a handle. There are lots of things you can use for a handle. You can actually get replacement luggage handles, which look really cute on them. They're kind of oversized for this size suitcase, but it kind of gives it a cute look. Also, I've used, they make leather drawer pulls that you can get. They're a little bit on the expensive side, but they're perfect for this. But what I did is I just went to Hobby Lobby and I got some leather strapping. This was just sold, I think it's 3/4 inch wide, and it was just sold sort of this much. I don't know how much it is, but this much. So I'm just going to sort of figure out how big I want my handle. I think I want it to be about like that. And I'm just going to use my scissors to cut the length that I want. Okay, and this isn't really easy to do, but I'm going to try and just sort of round those corners a little bit. Not very well. If you had good like leather cutters, that would be good for this. I don't have any leather shears. I do have a nicer pair of scissors. Let me try that. These might cut it a little bit better. Yeah, that's much better. All right, so just sort of, I don't know, giving it more of a rounded look there. Okay, it's a little choppy looking. You can be as perfect as you'd like. That's the great thing about those drawer pulls, is that this was already done. But I think it's going to be okay. And then, yeah, sharper scissors are better for this. Okay. All right, and that's not even necessary. You could just keep it a flat end. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is cleanup. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just punch a hole in these. I'm going to use my, what is this called? The long reach, what is it called? Big Bite, that's what it is. And I think I'm going to use the 1/8 size hole. I'm going to put a hole right in the center there. And then I'm going to figure out where I want this to go. And I think it goes sort of where that slot is about where this strap should go. So if you had that slot still on there, you would know exactly. I'm just going to sort of go with this area. And what I'm going to do is same thing. If I can get my pencil in there, make a little mark where I want those to go. Okay, and then use my Big Bite. Will it go in there? It might not go in there. If it doesn't go in there, I have to use my crocodile. The hole that I can reach is just a little bit closer to the edge than what I marked. So I'm just going to go for it. It's going to be okay. So I'll do the same. See where that is? It's just a little bit closer to this edge than the mark, but I think it's going to be okay. Let me do that the other way too. All right, that's okay. Okay, you can also just use your pokey tool. I just wanted it to be a nicer looking mark on the inside. Okay, and then what we're going to use to fasten this, buried under all of this, where are they? Are Chicago screws. And these are used in bookbinding. It's also used in leather work. And what it is it's kind of like a rivet, but a rivet with two parts that you screw together. So you can have this finished looking side on the outside. That would look like this. Oh boy. It's a tight squeeze. Okay, yeah. So you could have that sort of look on the outside, or you can have this sort of screw on the outside. I don't think the screw looks as nice. So even though it's kind of a tight squeeze, I'm going to put that. I guess you could make a bigger hole. I'm just going to make it work. All right, so I put those two parts of the Chicago screw into the leather, and now I'm going to open it up, put the screw part into the box, and then you just, okay, I think this is actually the screwdriver that came with these Chicago screws, so that's handy. So you just screw it into place. Isn't that so much easier than trying to use your fingers? Okay, and then on the other side. Okay, all right, get all that debris out, and that is how you make the slotted treat box into an adorable little suitcase. So make a whole pile of these, put anything in them. They would be fun for lots of different things. I'm going to show you how I made this into a sewing box, which is great. It's the perfect size for carrying along a little sewing project. Also, I'm going to show you how I made it into a dollhouse and a doll trunk. So those are coming up, and I'll leave you below all of the materials that I used for this, the Chicago screws, that closure, the hinges, and also this 12 by 12 chipboard that I used that I got from Amazon. Hey, if you like this project and would like to see more like it, let me know by giving me a thumbs up, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Take care.